Mr. James Scarlett, we go again.
Good afternoon, Gav. How are you?
Mate, if it wasn't for IT issues, I would be in the fucking greatest mood you could ever find me in. But I am, and this is option three. I am now on a laptop. I have a 10-year-old Mac to my right hand side that won't allow the video without buffering, and I've got a brand new PC to my left hand side that won't allow recognize the mic. So I am now on a laptop which is relatively new too. And if you're watching on YouTube, you might notice a difference in quality with a video because it's only got one USB port. So it was a choice of do I get the mic to work or do I go full HD? And I went with the mic for the Spotify listeners.
Well, I'm enjoying that I can see more of your lovely damnation artwork. You can see a white wall behind me, and I can see some lovely um, artwork. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
when I first started, you could literally see up my nostrils because I had no height in it whatsoever, and you could see my ceiling. But I've got a printer underneath it now. I just what's the podcast with the drummer, the successful podcast with the drummer who does the all the big interviews, the downbeat. It's downbeat into it. Now, a clip came on my one of these reels came on my Facebook, and he does the downbeat pod. And you see his setup, he's got Danny Filth in, three different camera angles in studio. And then I'm like, fucking, here we are sitting beside him in the charts. And I've got three broken computers, a printer, and a fucking, I've got a choice. I've got a choice of a Zoom video or using my mic. It's like, honest to God, at some point we need to fuck it. My biggest wish for 2025 is to come onto this podcast not flustered, not having like some sort of drama in the 5 minutes leading up to it, or both of us in meetings and coming. You know what I mean? It's just go in it, just prepared and relaxed. And right, James, let's enjoy ourselves. So that's my big dream for 2025.
Yeah, my least favorite thing is when the Wi-Fi is a bit shaky. You can't quite relax, can't quite. But I'm just like I said last week. I'm really enjoying the technical problems being at your end. Feels way more relaxing.
It's a bit more novel. How about let's start there. Last week's pod. Now I won't lie. I wanted us to blow the doors off everything we'd ever done. We've been away for a week or so, and there had been a bit of anticipation because I was excited about coming back and doing it. It was up there with some of the most successful, but it was still a few hundred downloads behind the most successful first day of the Damnation debrief one, which I wanted to blow the doors off of. That aside, everything else was spectacular. We had more feedback than we've ever had across all platforms, which was wonderful. The YouTube video was the most liked in a single day. Like had more likes within 12 hours than fucking some of our most successful videos we've had on there in 8 months. And the Kofi's on fire. So I was skipping about the house about how happy I was with how it went. All we need to do is just get those download numbers up as well, and we will be smashing this.
Yeah, I mean it's the most downloaded podcast we've had for about 6 weeks, and is only about 100 behind our biggest ever in week one. So I think we're yeah, I think it's been good because December was just slightly slower, wasn't it? And through the Christmas period, and yeah, it's it's good. Turns out more people want to know about the year ahead than they do about our favorite albums of 2024.
Which I have to say I'm secretly delighted about, but I can see your
Yeah.
heart was crushed when it overtook the best and our favourite albums of the year. Like, come on, people, don't let me down here.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's good. The numbers are good. Like, at the end of the day, for only 100 down on, you know, nearly 10,000 a week or whatever it is, I think we're in a good place. I'm happy. And
Yeah,
Kofi's nice, isn't it? People listen to you and the Kofi just continues to tick up and people are supporting us. So feel warm and fuzzy about that.
yeah. I mean, it's great. We got a bunch of new subscribers yesterday, but I feel that firstly there's a lot of support and people who want to support you there. And I can totally understand that. Kofi for the first 6 months was a bit of a train crash. There was some sort of security measure put in place, which the subscribers couldn't see or click the right button for. And Kofi was just automatically cancelling your subscription. Took us a long time to get through it. It appears that we have now cleared that hurdle. That security measure has been taken away. And yeah, as I said in the post, even our loyal Norwegian subscriber, Tina, is getting. I noticed there was a monthly subscription for the first time ever. She successfully got to the second month, after having to go in and manually do it each time. So, please, we have got this has all been for shits and giggles. We have got ourselves some vinyl, and we do plan to sign up and get subscriptions to possibly Pledget Records and Church Road Records if there's enough money there. The tour, we are now in the planning stages. Actually, logistics of it is not cheap. You can see why bands struggle so much to get around about Europe, never mind the UK. Fuel, tour manager costs, hiring a car or a van costs, all of it, parking is all going to add up, hotels, it's all going to add up to a pretty penny, and the Kofi will definitely make sure we can go out there and not come back and tell our wives that we went in a vanity project and also lost money.
But yeah,
how was your week, big man?
It's nice stuff. Good. It's busy, man. I mean, like work is busy. It's the time of year where you start realizing that the festival's coming, so you start thinking about production. Like, it might be. I had an email this morning about planning the size of our stages and the aesthetics of what the stages look like and the lighting, and talking about. I had someone say, because actually, we've made the Axiom and the Yokai stage bigger. They're actually different tents. So they were the same tents last year, but they're different dimensions. ATG is getting bigger in a wider sense, and Trees is getting bigger in a longer sense. And that actually has quite a lot of impact on lighting and sound and stuff. And so I'm having a bunch of conversations like that, which are like techie event questions, and like, how many port cabins are we going to have for dressing rooms? How many toilets are we going to have in the backstage areas? All that sort of stuff. So it's a real like game changer in your brain, because none of that is even a consideration since August.
Yeah,
And now it's like,
is that you go back, despite how many years you're doing this, 20 years in, still you go back to that it's always a fantasy festival bit for whatever period you've got, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, where all you're really doing is playing the game with agents. Is, I'd really like this band to sit here on this poster, and it's like everyone's dream bit of the job. Let's go and book all the bands that I love, and then you're right, when then it goes to how many portalos do you need? And are you going to put the screen up there? And where's the security going to go? It's very much like, this isn't just I'd like to book 5 of my favourite bands.
Yeah, so absolutely. So it's gone. It's done the full switch from Fantasy Festival to Real Festival now, and so there's a big element of production. And I've seen a couple of people mention on our socials that they would like us to talk more about, how do you work out how many toilets you need or stuff like that. And my answer to that is, please go on to the Two Promoters One Pod group and Two Promoters One group, and ask us some questions and we will answer them. This week in our questions, I've gone through the Kofi and gone through the inbox on Kofi and taken some questions out. Basically, we'd rather them in that group, but if you're not on Facebook, find a way of sending them to us. If you want me to talk about toilets, I will. It's sometimes hard to know what people are going to be interested in.
I think the time is. I think we have to accept the fact that we will do an episode that goes beyond the geekiness and nerdiness and logistics of where we would even feel that this is interesting. I mean, someone asked for the guy who you hire the portalos from to come on as a guest and describe how you put portalos on. We're not going that far. We are not hiring the guy. The guy he's got no interest, I'm sure, coming in and showing his blue hands. But I think there is something about, like you're talking there about dressing rooms and the porta cabins. I think there's a conversation to be had about that. Like, okay, but what are you changing them to, and how many do we need, and why is that the thing? Because people are clearly want some of that as part. So maybe we'll call the fucking geekiest pod of 2025, and we'll just get in about all the numbers and digits and logistics and where things get planned. And if folk enjoy that, then we really are fucking doomed.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been doing all of that, but at the same time, we've got these band announcements coming that I told you about last week. So artwork is ready. Rob's pretty much finished it. I've had a first look. Mitch is checking for typos today and a few other things, and then we got the fun times that we send it to agents probably tomorrow. So any agents
this is for this one for Trees. Is this one for Trees? It's got the January announcement, because we're running out of January. So when are we? No, I know you probably can't say an exact date because that might give it away if it's mentioned anybody else. But when are we looking at?
No, we're going 30th of January for ATG, and I guess I'm going to tell you this as well. I wasn't planning to, but so what we're going to do on the 30th of January, which is a Thursday, is Gav's going to probably blind react to the announcement, and the first place anyone will get it is going to be on this podcast. Now, a few people have asked, "Can you give us something on the podcast?" So I'm going to give you fucking 45 bands on the podcast at 6 a.m. on Thursday, the 30th of January. Had to argue quite hard with a couple of my colleagues. So that's what we're doing. So that'll be good.
Okay. Okay. And it genuinely will be. Listen, I had a few messages from people asking who the surprise band for ATG that's going to blow up the internet in James's world. I don't know. And I could genuinely ask James before I come on this podcast or after, and he would tell me, and I wouldn't tell you. But I don't want to know because I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. That we can have an opportunity to come on. I know two bands that are going to be announced for Arctangent because it came up in conversation, and both of them absolute 10 out of 10s for me, belters. I could probably guess another 10 just with the conversations we've had and the hints you've dropped. Now, after that, it's all going to be completely blind to me. So I'm looking forward to getting in about that. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the announcement for Trees. It's comforting to come on and have these chats and no slip up because people are like, is it Marmozets? Is it Gallows? Is it? And I'm like, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Trees is then coming on February the 4th. So we will no doubt talk about that as well. But yeah, the ATG one, I'm super excited for. I was just saying to Mitch a minute ago when we were talking about our sort of marketing plans. I'd forgotten or hadn't quite realised how most of the bigger bands on the lineup at Arctangent this year haven't played the festival before. And 10 years in, that feels pretty satisfying. The two bands you're thinking of both haven't played before, have they?
Yeah. So you finally the Lego pieces are clicking together now.
Yeah, the brain slowly ticks over.
The cheese and wine from the Christmas is like, oh, that's right. I have spoke to Gavin about those bands.
Yeah, I've got it now. So that feels exciting. It's a very fresh Arctangent lineup coming. So bunch of that going on, and band booking still as well. And then we're planning the podcast tour, as you said. And I just heard from Miles that Bristol's got less than 10 tickets left. So Bristol is going to be the next one that sells out, I think. So it's all super positive work-wise. I think we're going to have a call with Mr. Tom Begley tomorrow, I think, about tour managing and merch ideas for the live tour and most importantly, what's on our rider. Which I'm assuming.
I'm looking because what we're going to do is we're going to have Hayden Britland, our agent, an agent to the likes of Cult of Luna and Boris and Envy and a bunch of others. He's due on next week. So I've noticed that you asked for a bunch of questions and some of them are crackers. I mean, some of them are a bit like, what's it like dealing with these two assholes? Which I'm looking forward to. Hayden, come in locked and loaded, give us both barrels. We are big boys and we can take it. So please come ready for a bit of a scrap. That'll be a lot of fun. And then we need to do, once we've actually got it, we need to do a pod on the actual tour itself. I mean, this is our rider. I don't know if that's going to come post the tour or before the tour or whatever, but I think folk would be like, hey, okay, well, we're the size. If you're looking at a level of band that would play in these venues, sort of 300 cap rooms, 250, 300 cap rooms, this is what we've got in our rider. This is what we've provided. And then, if we show up and there's no Jack Daniels at some city, we'll call it that promoter.
Mate, me and you are a terrible combination because you drink cider, not beer, and you drink whiskey, not rum. So basically, the rider costs have gone up already, and we don't give a fuck what Bagley drinks. It better be one of those 4 drinks. He ain't getting his own. He's not getting his own thing on the rider.
He drinks cheap beers. Cheap beers is what he likes. He likes a Carling or a Carlsberg or something like that. I offered him a Damnation IPA at me, and he said, "No, can you have a Red Stripe or something instead?" Which is mildly insulting even for a guy who doesn't drink beer. So,
Wow, incredible. The final bit of work stuff I wanted to tell you about was, well, you know about this, Gav, is the sort of website / blog called Something You Said. So the Matt, who runs the press for 2000 Trees and Arctangent, he doesn't run the podcast press. He sent me a link to this, and there's this cool blog which It's called Something You Said, and they're like well, it says on their website they're an award-winning music, arts, fashion, culture-based website from a team of writers, photographers, and creatives based all over the world. We all do it for no financial reward, just for the love of being creative. And they've written an article about Two Promoters, One Pod. I sent it yesterday to three people: my mum, my wife, and Gav, the three most important people in my life. And because I
Sorry,
was well
Miles.
proud of it. It's a really nice write-up, though, isn't it?
It was it was unreal. Honestly, I only saw it last night, and I was like, I thought, then I was like, I don't recognise this, but and I certainly don't recognise the name of the author. It wasn't like it was one of our devoted listeners that just went, oh, let's go and write something nice about Two Promoters One Pod, and it was fucking brilliant. It was brilliant. I'm a grounded guy. I am a genuinely a very grounded guy. But read too many articles like that could quickly change. You can see the actual rose of the podcast world
Yeah, yeah,
if I keep reading naked articles because it's like fucking hell. Maybe I am amazing.
yeah. I hadn't realised how great I was.
How great am I?
We should.
There was a piece in it that goes the well-crafted podcast, and I was like, well, that's the one inaccuracy. Like fucking total car crashes. We can't even get a fucking mic and light to work properly. But except for the well-crafted, but I thought it had no. It was very complimentary, and I'm hugely appreciative. I assume the guy who wrote it listens regularly to put together an article like that. So thank you very much. It was appreciated.
Yeah, massively appreciated. Let's give it a share on our socials so people can have a read.
Absolutely. About how great we are.
Yeah,
let's tell people how great we are again. Okay, good. I'm up for it, James. Let's
absolutely.
make that a theme. Let's make that a theme.
So, what have you been up to in your world of work?
Mostly overhead. The Albatross has been my week since. I cannot believe the response to that on the record. That one response outweighed every out on the record I've done the previous 52. It's like I think with that band, one, they were fucking incredible, and the people who didn't know, it just caught them by surprise. They're like, holy fuck, where's this hidden gem been? And then there was this sort of frustrated fan base, I suppose, people who already knew they were amazing and maybe have said to other people and it's no made any, it couldn't penetrate with anyone, like, fucking hell, this album's out, and it's like people just no one's listening to it. It's fantastic. Then those people blow up because they're like, finally, somebody's fucking shouting for it from some sort of platform. So somebody's wake up, people. This is the album. And so there was a mixed response of absolutely yes, Gav, you have nailed this, to the oh my god, didn't know anything about this, and you've also nailed it. This is such an incredible album. Everybody, I ended up speaking to three different agents. I mean, I never approached them. Agents either contacted me or we were chatting about other things. So I think they're going to end up picked up this week by a mutual friend of ours, a great agent who I won't mention, obviously. If that's
Well, do I need to get in before the end of this week then?
well, this is no Hayden, so you'll still get them. You'll still get them at a reasonable fee for a band at that level. So, it's someone who gives us reasonable fees for these bands. I was well chuffed for that. It was just it felt there was something about that whole feel good factor for that last podcast. It was like I said, a big deal for me is the interaction, and the people go back. It's no all about just money or telling us we're great. I saw one comment which made me laugh. It was I think it was the guy Simon on our group, or somebody posted this to sum up last week's podcast. James wants to give everyone who goes to 2000 Trees a knife, and Gav's praising the journalistic standards of the Sun. I was like, that's what I mean. That's what I mean by interaction. Like shit like that, you can just go next day and have a bit of a laugh. And that's right, James did say he wanted to give everybody a knife as they enter his festival. So keep it up. It's a lot of people, I think a lot of people think they don't have something to say, they don't have something to contribute, but that's exactly the kind of points I mean when you're getting involved in and recommending stuff and asking questions. And I think that blog said one of the main features of the podcast, what made it so great, was the interaction with the listenership, and
absolutely,
that's what keeps me interested in it as well. I mean, I can have these conversations with you on the phone, so it's great when you know that everyone else who's listening is getting involved also.
I quite love the fact that there's someone's always either hearing us and telling the band about it, or the band are already listening as well. So I've managed to get myself an Overhead the Albatross CD sent to me this week. Did they contact you?
They contacted me, and then we took it a step further on that as well. But I never get sent anything.
I
And
know. Well,
make
so Chris Chapman, a lovely guy who comes to ATG every year, he runs a Cheery Wave Records. He contacted me, so he probably doesn't know how to contact you, but he should definitely send you a CD because you were the one who gave him the
I,
big.
to be fair, it was the band contacted me, and then someone from the press label contacted us. Now, the album isn't released yet. I have bought it. I went onto their Bandcamp and bought it. I believe it's coming out in the vinyl. I mean, is coming out in
Yeah,
spring. And the chap who contacted me said they would send a t-shirt. So, aye, all good, all good on that front. I want to also give a shout out to Tane. That's how you pronounce that. Your Tane. They were very, very appreciative of getting your shout out last week. Their agent got in touch with me and asked if I wanted to hear the album. I listened to it. Heavy Health Vibes.
yeah.
I mean, excellent. I can see why they're getting so much praise and so much weight behind them. So I felt that was a really good start to the year. You get these two up and coming bands that you've given them a wee bit extra platform. One agent said to me, I don't know if this is true. One agent said to me that they had the Overhead the Albatross had 700 or 800 more Spotify plays the day after they were announced. I don't know how you track that. I don't know if they've got some program that lets them see that, but that's what the agent said. Said you should probably just be an influencer instead of ditch your podcast. Which I told my wife, and she said, if you ever mention the word influencer, to me again, you will be divorced. You'll be a single influencer. Do not fucking describe yourself as an influencer and allow anyone else to ever describe you as an influencer. So noted, Kelly. I won't. So good shout out to the band Tane. Also, I was well chuffed for them. It's got me reinvested on the record playlist. Yesterday or the day before was the first time in months really that I went in and given it a solid 4-5 hour play, and then the next day I gave it an hour. So I get through a right chunk of it, and it's fucking incredible. I mean, you need to go into it with your eyes open that you're going to get stuff that you don't like, and you need to go into it. It's not appropriate for all moods, but going from Dragged into Sunlight's Boiled Angel to Manchester Orchestra covering Frightened Rabbit is it's just class. And even some of your questionable choices like Manic Street Preachers and
Mate,
what else did you have in there? Was it Power Trip by Monster Magnet? Even if
mate.
they're not great tunes, you smile a wee bit because you're like, fucking James is really off his rocker, man.
Mate, we might be talking about those albums again in the future, but we will see.
Aye, but then, and you know what? Because I haven't been as invested in recent months, there was ones on there. You've actually put on some decent tunes as well, some actual crackers. And there was a band,
Other half. It's very kind of you to say so.
Other half, Lancome, and there was another band you put on recently. I was like, oh, these are really, really good. So I'm going to give that playlist now that you're involved, and it feels like less of a task for me, and now I can just enjoy it. You've now put 3 songs on. I feel like you're invested in it now. And I've got the pressure today to feel like I need to follow up Overhead the Albatross with another winner. So I've got a banker in mind for on the record.
Great. Lovely stuff. Anything else going on Damnation-wise?
Damnation-wise, oh, you know what? I wasn't going to say this, but maybe today will be Thursday. Today's Wednesday. So maybe tonight, we will announce a special set by a black metal band that I am very excited about. It's a peach. It's an absolute peach. We actually have to reconfigure the slots, the timeline, just so we can fit this in. I've told you what it is. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate the nodding.
It is a peach. It is a peach.
And I'm very excited, but I think our fan base will be very excited about it. Well, I'm hoping that will come out later tonight, Thursday. If not, it'll be Friday the latest. I just need to get the artwork approved, sent to the agent approved. But it was one that took a bit of backwards and forwards, and it's not something we've done before because it's going to take a bit more time than usual. But very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
And you have been saying recently, send us free shit, and we'll give you a shout out in the pod, right? But what you don't realise when you say that is no one knows your address. And you don't monitor in the messaging on Instagram or Facebook. So then I get the messages that said, oh, we'd love to send you free shit. So I have 2 records, one from me, one from you, for a Scottish band.
How do you pronounce it, Gav?
No, but the thing is, I don't want to sound like a fucking Nazi here because it's SGAILE. Sounds like sea kale. The last thing I need is fucking Antifa back onto me. So I think it's a Gaelic word, embarrassingly, which means shadow. It's a Gael. I'm going to go with. It's if you're a fan of Soar or Fallock or that sort of instrumental progressive, touches of black metal, but sounds like a guy wrapped in fur on some mountain in the Isle of Skye. You know what I mean? Just fucking belting out some progressive metal. The instrumentation, it just reminds you of the type of bands. You take it a step forward, it would be like your Heilung and your Wardrunner for the Nordics in it. So I think you'll really enjoy it. I listened to a few tracks, thought it was excellent. Thank you very much to those guys. Civil Service, post-rock band from Manchester, also got in touch, sent me a t-shirt, which I'll stick on for the next episode. And because you mentioned you'd like a bottle opener, they sent me a Civil Service bottle opener too. So thanks. Keep that energy up, guys. I'm also wearing my Mastiff t-shirt, which was sent pre this podcast, but first time I've seen it, I was up the loft and I spotted it. I was like, oh, I need to dig out my Mastiff t-shirt. Thank you to these guys. Another great band. So yes, that is me up to speed. If you do like Civil Service or Overhead the Albatross, I believe they're playing a gig together in London this weekend. Go check that out if you can. Wee bit of support for whoever's putting that on.
Lovely stuff. Okay, so what's the title of today's episode, Gav? Remind me.
I think we're going to go with Now Booking 2027 because it's relevant to what you're just about to discuss.
Yeah, so there was an article in the Observer this week, which kind of got two headlines. Well, it's got a headline and a tagline. That I'm more interested in the tagline, but the headline to the article is UK festivals face really tough year due to fewer headline acts and rising costs. So I want to be careful about covering the same ground we've already covered with John Rostron. We're not really going through the festivals cancelled thing here. We're going to focus a bit on the headliners, and the sort of tagline says, stars must now be booked so far in advance for events that organisers can only guess who will sell tickets in 2 years' time. So just to repeat that, I think it's worth repeating. Stars must now be booked so far in advance for events that organisers can only guess who will sell tickets in 2 years' time. And it goes on to talk about nobody in 2023 would have guessed that Sabrina Carpenter or Chapel Rowan would be festival headliners in 2025. So what they're saying is, and this we'll talk about whether or not we think this is relevant to the rock and metal world, but though these artists are really exploding, but how would you have known in 23 that they were going to be your festival headliners? So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, and it also says top music venues are now booking 2 years ahead, locking in acts for 2027, and that means that festivals are rushing to announce their lineups earlier than ever, and it's basically everything's got increasingly expensive to run. So yeah, it's kind of like an interesting shit show of trying to get headliners at the moment across, like, it doesn't matter if I think it's relevant if it's Glastonbury or Reading or Arctangent or Trees or Download or Damnation. I think it's equally relevant. So
yeah,
what do you think?
To go through, well, let's do it from it's obviously our point of views why we're here and chatting. So first off, how far have you booked acts currently for 2026?
I've got one sort of 95% confirmed for Arctangent. That's it.
I mean, it's a bit mad. I mean, even that's a discussion that's taking place here. We're in January 2025, and you were having that discussion, and I take it from December 2024, and that's where we are on the scale. This isn't where you're dealing with Neil Young and Sabrina Carpenter and Kanye West and try to get these acts. I mean, I can understand why Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machine or Guns N' Roses can work 2 years in advance, because they're not operating in the same sphere that we're operating. Like, if you've got an Obituary and you try to book them 2 years in advance, even if you could successfully do that, if there's a arena tour in the States that comes up and they fancy Obituary support, they'll drop off your festival to go and do the arena tour, obviously for financial reasons, for every reason. It just makes better sense for them as a band and their sales. So I can understand that's not going to happen to Rage Against the Machine or Red Hot Chili Peppers or Guns N' Roses. So there's a bit of that with the headliners. Headliners are now going through this path where they're starting to do just more of their own shows. That whole Deftones and Korn route, they're just getting into arenas or Halifax Peace Hall and just doing headline sets there instead. And I find the whole thing, at Damnation's level, I find the whole thing frustrating and terrifying. Here I am, having booked quite a chunk of this year's lineup. Still need, even though there's 2 offers out for 2 headliners, we still need those to come back and say yes. Because if they don't, there is a lot of agents that are now looking at you like, you're trying to book November 2025. We're booking August 2026. When most of these bands are like, these bands have no right to be, even to operate in that. Because we already know, we learned this through the pandemic, that how many things can change, how many bands can drop off because their circumstances change, because there are bands that are getting paid 5 or 10 or 15 grand. There are no bands that are getting paid 1 million. So I don't know why the lower end of the scale is following the headliners. I don't know why it is. Currently, there's 3 or 4 bands that are provisionally booked in for Damnation 2026 as it sits right now. But my experience is almost all of them always fall by the wayside. By the time it gets there, something else will come up. They've decided they're going to write the album in that period. They've decided they're going to take the other tour instead. In fact, they're going to go on headline. They're going to go to Australia and China instead of going to the UK. So at the minute...
Is that because you tried to book them for 25 and then they said, we can't do it, we'll do 26? We'll do
2026. I get pencils in for 2026. So not booked, but very much like as it stands right now, the band, the agent and the promoter, myself, are of the impression that they're going to play Damnation 2026. But I've done that now. I've done that plenty of times. And ultimately, when you get that December, January 2025, get into 2026, it's very much like plans have changed because they're not Red Hot Chili Peppers. The plans change just because they're they're not operating in that profit margin that they can just lock in stadiums and it makes sense for everyone to do it. So, we've discussed this before. And I've always found that I've always had a bit of a problem with it, and I still have a problem with it, and it seems to be getting worse, not better.
Yeah, I mean, I've in sort of our world, the sort of level we are, and like looking at some of our similar events or competitors like Bloodstock and Outbreak and various others, I'm sure a lot of people are starting to think about 2026. I don't think that many will be miles ahead. But if you want to book, really big acts that are really in demand, then yeah, you need to look far ahead. But on the other hand, let's take someone like Alexis on Fire. I don't think Alexis on Fire are going to want to talk to me about booking them 2 years in advance. I just don't think they know what their plans are. So on the one hand, yes, everyone wants to get ahead, but on the other hand, a lot of acts that I talk to a lot of agents that I talk to don't want to talk about their acts 2 years away or 18 months away. That they really don't. And so I don't know. I'm not going to let it stress me out. I'm definitely not booking 2027. I can tell you that for nothing. But
because that is a thing, especially with Damnation. Like you go 2026 and then 2027, and you're a bit like, just pull some a Testament and Behemoth and that level of band. Are they going to be much bigger or much smaller than they are now? Probably not. The metal, we've talked about this topic a bunch of times in here. It's a much more slower burn. You don't get the reason that Sleep Token are such a fucking unicorn is because it just doesn't happen the way it happened with Sleep Token. In your world, where you're like your idols and your kneecaps, it's very frequent. You're operating in a space where a band that 2 years ago who played one of your small tents could potentially be headlining your main stage. This Sabrina Carpenter example is a brilliant example for the higher end, the headliners of major festivals. But for you, the idea of trying to book 2 years in advance is just nonsense. Because some of the bands are like literally almost unheard of right now who could be headlining your main stage. I mean, Arctangent less so, and then Damnation's a bit more stable. But ultimately, I don't think even at the level of Testament and Behemoth, they're looking 2 years ahead and saying, right, okay, let's get our plans in place. They're definitely booking into 2026. And what I've found is when you get the bigger bands like Slipknot, that maybe you go for a band like Bleed From Within 6 months or 8 months ago, and they've already got theirs 18 months in advance, because they're going to be on that tour with Slipknot, for example. And then you're a bit like, that's what's happened. rather than bleed from within themselves, being like, let's look 2 years in advance. They're just being tied up in a super package with a band as big as Slipknot.
Yeah, and you're right that Trees is. I mean, Kneecap. I mean, you've only got to look at where Kneecap were on the lineup 2 years before they were headlining to know that some of what that article's saying is correct, isn't it? That's bands can jump up that much. I mean, I was just saying to Mitch on the phone that there's two bands we're announcing on February the 4th that have previously been on the new stage at 2000 Trees, and one is third from top on the main now, and the other one is headline in the second stage. So it's a big jump. I mean, I was fucking surprised that one of them had got so big so quickly, but it's like, oh wow, they just sold out the Forum in London. Fucking hell.
I mean,
I
even
thought they were a little
Kneecap,
band.
like, we were on this podcast and I was saying, oh, but you don't fancy we getting Kneecap back. But at the beginning, like, oh, let's not get carried away about how far they could play up the main stage. So even in the duration of this podcast, if we had that conversation March, April, May, to now, you're sitting looking at Kneecap like, oh, that is absolutely, we've got them before they've got too big.
Yeah, but there's also across all three of our festivals, there's a lot of stable bands. So Alexis on Fire, Taking Back Sunday, they're not changing in popularity that much. It might be that one year they release a particularly critically acclaimed album, or it's an anniversary of some old classic. But Testament or Alexis on Fire or Mogwai, really, you're getting the same in 2021 as you're getting in 2027.
Yeah.
You know, that there might, you know, Jimmy Eat World are playing bigger venues now than they were when they headlined Trees, but I don't know really if it's changed that much in whether or not they're a good festival headliner for a festival like 2000 Trees. I think those bands, those classic bands, are stable, aren't they? But it's the Kneecaps and I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't got a fucking clue who Sabrina Carpenter is, but it's the Kneecaps and Sabrina Carpenters of this world that are harder in this regard.
That's a thing as well. Like, you're genuinely, I don't want to have this sort of old man syndrome, because I know that every guy in his 40s has said this about people who are listening to music in their 19s and 20s before. Oh, I haven't heard that act. Oh, I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, that music's just boom, boom, boom. And it's all So I'm not want to go down that route, but it does feel like sometimes there's an act, especially in hip hop and R&B, where you could literally, they can be. I mean, I didn't like. I've heard the name Travis Scott, but I saw a video of Travis Scott. He was playing in a like an American football stadium, an arena, 100,000 people with volcanoes in the middle, and I'm like, honestly, if he was playing and it was at the Cat House, I wouldn't have questioned it. And it's like, there's some of these artists that are just fucking rocket, like skyrocket headline Coachella big, and you're like, I haven't even heard a single tune of that. It just seems like stuff comes through so quickly. You're a bit like, fuck, try to be a Coachella or Glastonbury and book these bands, and then they become stadium fillers within 12 months.
Yeah. Although I made a decision a long time ago that, and a long time before this podcast started, that I wasn't interested in what was going on in the pop world. And I wasn't interested even in what was going on in what I would call indie music. I basically am interested in rock and metal, and I want to stay on top of that. I want to know about Unpeople and Vower, and and I want to keep an eye on the new Slipknot album and the new Knock Loose record, even if it's not 100% what I want to be listening to. And overall, I'm kind of, reading Kerrang and Metal Hammer and trying to keep my finger on the pulse of the whole thing. But the latest pop act that explodes I don't even think it's because I'm old. I'm just not interested. I'm not interested, and because I spend a lot of time listening to music. And
you also don't have a 13 or 14-year-old daughter. I am. I get a lot of exposure to. There was is it Olivia Rodrigo? Is that the one? She just recovered Paramore's Misery Business, but changed the lyrics. And I was like, oh, that's Paramore. So no, that's don't be so stupid. That's like, honestly, that is Misery Business. It's the same fucking riff, just with different lyrics. So maybe, who knows? Maybe I'm just that old guy shouting about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, well, yeah. Who knows? So headliners. So are you hopeful of what's coming?
I don't know if I'm getting strung along a wee bit. I feel like there's a conversation that just went and just been going on for a bit too long for me to be comfortable about it. I mean, I wish it was just like a yes or a no, so I could like go into plan B, because definitely that whole, like, I wanted, what my dream scenario was, get the 4,000 sales and just go wild and just book all the fucking fantastic and exciting bands I liked, whether they drew fans or not, because ultimately believe that's what the fan base would like. But I get it needs some bigger names at the top of the poster. And I don't know if the huge big 50, 60, 70 grand bands are there currently. So I think there's still names available, but there should be money no matter who we book to filter that down the lineup and keep it somewhere in between what I was aiming for and something that it will be. So aye, headliners. I've got the offers are out for the two bands we want to have headline both days. I'm just waiting to get that yes or no. What can we do to make it happen? So I'm confident about it. I'm confident with the rest lineup, and there's so many good things still to come, and I'm really buzzing about this year. But aye, headlines. It's just an ongoing drama, and then I feel like for your point of view, for looking for the outside looking in, it's about like you've got this one situation where there's just headliners were falling out of trees. And then you had, Art Tangents get one at the minute. Maybe you've got them more up your sleeve, but I don't know yet. But aye, it made it worse for me when you said I've got 17 headliners for my 4 days and I couldn't get one for my 2 days. But maybe that was just a freak accident, and you're actually feeling the pinch a bit more at Art Tangent, which you can let me know if that's the case or not.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Trees did seem easy this year. I'm already starting to panic about next year, and because you got to follow it up. People are going to expect you to follow that up. ATG. So we're announcing when we announce on the 30th of January, there'll be the Wednesday headliner, and obviously Friday headliner is Carnival. The Wednesday will be announced, and that is a main stage headliner size band playing Wednesday for the first time at Arctangent, as I've said before. So two out of the four headliners will be out there. The sub headline slots are really strong this year, and nearly all of them are new bands that have never played Arctangent. Super fucking exciting. But there are offers out for the two headline slots that as yet for Thursday and Saturday that as yet are not confirmed. And yesterday I started thinking, fuck me, these offers have gone longer than I want them to now. And I'm going to start looking again. And bunch of offers. There's some really interesting bands, and maybe once the lineup's out there, we can have a chat about the bands that I talk to, because it blows some people's minds. Some of the bands I'm talking to at the moment, which I'm kind of trying to weigh up which ones I want to go for. It's not that I've got too many, because you don't really know how available they are, but they're kind of like, yeah, send us an offer sort of things.
Yeah, and you
Really
can't get yourself in
frustrating
the
one.
trap that you offer three official offers for two slots, and then all three say yes. As unlikely as that is, and then you're sitting there telling an agent, "Oh, actually, I can't, I can't do that band," because that's not a good place to be.
No, it's a very, very dangerous strategy to do. You could get yourself in fucking a whole load of shit. I had an annoying one yesterday where the band is available and they want to do it. Perfect headliner. But they're playing a festival in Europe on the fucking Friday. And because they're a big headliner, they would need to be in Friday morning sound checking in Europe. And whatever day they play Arctangent, they need to be there at the morning sound checking. You can't do with the UK borders. I'm not even sure if they would have done it without Brexit, but certainly with the slower borders, they're just like, we want to do it. And they'd like a ton more money. If they're already out that weekend, they'd like another, 50 grand or whatever. But they can't make it work. So it's super frustrating. I've asked the other festival to move them, but I think the answer is no on that. So yeah, fun and
Yeah,
fucking games.
there's your festival alliance there, pal. Fuck off.
Yeah, yeah. But
In a
I'm not
situation like
stressing.
that, if like, because I mean, we're talking about money solves everything. Is there a situation like that you try and grease the palm of the other festival a bit and say, look, can you 5 or 10 grand, and then go to the agent, the booking the band, and say, look, I need to pay this other festival. You need to take a small hit, and we'll go 50-50. Or is that just something you would be willing to do?
Yeah, I would give the other festival 10 grand if they'd move them a day.
There you go.
So it was something I thought about bringing up with the agent. I don't know. It's a tricky one. I don't know the other festival, so we'll see. I think I'm going to move on to other. I've got some other options. Never mind the two offers I've actually got out as well. So it always Arctangent. I've never not. I'm always happy.
Yeah.
So I will get there. And honestly, the lineup announcement that's coming. in a couple of weeks is fucking great. So yeah, let's go.
Good, buzzing about that. So to wrap up that segment then, and before we get into some questions, booking further in advance, I find it very problematic from a Damnation point of view, because I don't feel that the bands that I work with have the capacity to have a calendar and a schedule that's 2 years in advance. And more often not, when it does happen, it falls through for all the fears that I've got. And for yourself, it works with the bigger bands, but you're no fretting about it. Is that a
No,
good
I'm not
summation?
fretting about it. And honestly, those sort of articles are always a bit garbled. They kind of pull from too many different sources, and they're not. They were quoting the Musicians Union one minute, the Association of Festivals, Independent Festivals the next, and then like someone booking like something like Glastonbury or Reading, and they're actually all different stories. And I think the one theme for me is that we keep coming back to, or I keep coming back to on this podcast, is that the rock and metal festivals are in a different place to the rest of the festival industry at the moment in terms of their ticket sales and access to bands. And now we've added a new one in, which is I think what me and you are both saying is you don't get bands doing that very much. Apart from the odd kneecap, you're just not getting it in the rock and metal world. So
Yeah.
I'm relaxed. I'm fine.
Yeah, I do feel it's I don't know if I've just got my eyes open a bit more with this podcast, but I do feel that there's that some bands are not taking the sleep token approach, but certainly making bigger strides. You know what I mean? It's like Greenlawn being that perfect example. I hope to see them. We talked about as headliners of the future. They're that tour, but is it the Forum they're on with that? If you can sell at the Forum, then you're starting to do decent numbers. I mean, not Bruno's, their agent's going to be punching in, but his other band, Blood Incantation, hopefully they can keep making strides as well. It's not just going to be this one big critically acclaimed album and then back to the clubs for them. So and I feel that probably now 20 years in with Damnation, there's probably some bands in the same way that a Download would do by promoting a corner, a sleep talking to that top slot. There's maybe at our level, there's sometimes you just need to promote the bands and just not always go like, it's just straight back to Electric Wizard or whatever. It's you try and get a band that for maybe they are a sub headliner, but stick them on it. Especially if you got a band like Perturbator already playing. The Perturbator fucking would sell the Forum, you know what I mean? So maybe just getting some of the bands and then creating your own new headliners will make it less of an issue going forward for the next 5 years, rather than just this continued, they 5 bands that aren't available. Can I get Behemoth? Can I get Emperor? Can I get Clutch? Oh no, we kind of get a new headliner. Or just create more new headliners as well. So I'm quite positive about it. I mean, I thought it was good to address that point. I feel that people don't. One of the bits of the feedback we got in the pod as well is, please don't think because you've addressed headliners in the future or the exact cost of festivals or lessons learned that you can't give it a 2025 spin as well. There was more we wanted from those episodes that we feel we can give you. So, I mean, I feel we've probably been quite strict in that. We won't discuss that again, but in actual fact, there is plenty still to say, even for a full podcast.
Yeah, well, I think the costs one is still our most listened to, and there's definitely fuckloads more to say. Hopefully, next time I'm not in a field doing it with no prep as well. So, yeah.
I would dig out some exactly. But we will definitely do more costs, more exact costs of festivals sometime over the point this year. So, will we give our wee friend Lou's Brews a shout out before we get some questions?
Yeah, our favourite Glory supporter, Big Lou. We love him.
Big Lou. Honestly, at this point, it's a running, ongoing joke, obsession in my house. And I mentioned Crazy Pedro's, the sauce it does on it, and my son mocked me saying, "What's it designed for? Pizza. What does it work on? Everything." I mean, that's the wee slogan. And I'm like, no, what? Fuck, he's deserved the £1 peri peri sauce for Aldi. And here I am treating you to the fine flavours of Lou's Brews, and he's taking the piss at me. So, I mean, what else can you say other than to remind you that his sauces are fucking fantastic? I believe he's alluding to some new flavours coming out over the next week or so, so keep your eye out for that. If you haven't tried the Two Promoters One Sauce Burnt Peach, I demand you go and check it out. You will not. I've never seen someone order it and go, you know what? It's overrated or it never had any flavour. Everyone, even the ones that don't particularly like the hot sauces, still can enjoy some of these milder options. So get to his website, loosebrews.co.uk. Funnily, if you like that kind of joke, loosebrews.co.uk also still directs there. Whoever's doing that is clearly keeping up with their payments. So both will take you to your site. Pod 15 will get you 15% off any order you make.
Happy days. Lovely stuff. Okay, we've gone in a funny order today, but let's do some questions, shall we?
Let's do some questions. I feel like we had to get the news up front, James. We had to get that news, tackle the Observer and Guardian's issues first, and then tackle your brother's chat next.
Lovely stuff. Well, Rob Scarlett says, which bands are criminally underrated? His answer is The Living End.
Well, he would be right in that because I don't know anything about The Living End.
Okay, so criminally underrated. I mean, I quite like a bit of Living End. So I've got some bands that I think you.
Oh, you're going plural. You're doing more than one.
Fucking right, I am, mate.
I thought you meant bands like give us one each. Gav
well, no. Well, I mean, I was expecting this to be one of those questions where I have to do the heavy lifting because you thought about it 20 seconds ago. So I'm going to start with. I'll go as quick as I can, but look. Ocean Size and Amplifier, two different bands, but they come very much from the same sort of scene. They came up at the same time. They both produced some absolute fucking gold dust albums, like world-beatingly brilliant. Our friend Remfrey calls Ocean Size the best British band ever, including fucking everyone. Better than Led Zeppelin. So yeah, those two utterly wonderful bands. They had a little bit of press hype at the start of their career. I remember when Amplifier were all over Kerrang back in whenever that first album came out, but it just never quite took off. So Ocean Size and Amplifier, first one. Second one, I don't really want to bore the pants off you about this, but do you know what I'm going to say?
No, I haven't given any thought. So
the Wild Hearts are the single most underrated band in the world.
Fucking overrated, you mean?
Ginger, let me tell you this. Ginger is probably what is in with a shout being the best rock songwriter of that whole generation. Dave Grohl, Gav's got his head in his hands, everyone. Dave Grohl, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, and Ginger Wildheart. Fucking in terms of writing riffs and choruses, he's the man. They were the fucking bands. Those albums, Fuck and Earth Versus, are absolute world beaters. They should have been massive. They should have been as big as the Foo Fighters, but unfortunately, they're fucking crackers and they torpedoed their career by just being, just mad. Can I keep going?
Yeah, please.
I'm just going to see
if I could use this bottle and I get a tooth it.
Okay. 80s Matchbox, Beeline Disaster, Future of the Left. And I'm going to end with two big bands who I think the rock world criminally underrate. If you're a rock fan, you've underrated these bands. We shouldn't have pushed them away, should have embraced them. And those bands are Muse and the Manic Street Preachers.
Right, just
so look, it's my fucking answer. It's my answer.
But it's not an answer though. How can fucking main stage leads in red and headliners Muse be underrated?
They're criminally underrated by rock fans. Everyone's just the rock world has kind of shunned them. The rock press has shunned them. I just feel like that's how I feel. I think the last thing I'm going to say, Gav, is that all of those bands are from the UK, which wasn't intentional, but it kind of tells you a story, I think, is that it is hard being a UK rock band. If some of those bands had been American, they would be fucking playing stadiums now. If Amplifier were American, they would be playing in stadiums.
Okay, James.
And Foo Fighters would be supporting the fucking Wild Hearts.
I don't. This is all very genuine and natural. I mean, there was apparently I deflated in my chair when you were telling me the albums you were looking forward to in 2025. It's just my reaction. I'm not. I don't know how you manage it so often. I don't know how we got on so well on this podcast. You having such bizarre takes. So, my answer. And if we're going to go bands in, I mean, my answer's Nordic Giants. If we were allowed one band, I can't understand. And this isn't even just a personal take. I know that post rock is a niche genre in itself, and even the biggest bands, your Mogwai, Explosions in the Sky, and so on aren't that huge. It's a difficult genre to bust through. I just, every time I read someone who saw Nordic Giants for the first time, especially live, and record they're good, they're great in record, but live they're exceptional. And everyone who sees that show comes away like, shit, that changed my life. I was in tears, couldn't believe how fucking great it was. What an amazing experience. And then, what, 10, 12 years later, they're playing 100 cap room and maybe not even. I just don't get it. The two things do not marry up to me, that they get such good feedback and reviews everywhere they play, yet so few folk are willing to go and spend their money and go see them live. Whereas you get, I don't know, some fucking, not at the same kind of music, but just derivative bullshit like Five Finger Death Punch or Shinedown doing 2,000-3,000 people per night. I just don't get it. So that's the one answer I've got it. Otherwise, I swim in a sea of criminally underrated bands. That's what Damnation is. If you go to Ithaca, Pupil Slicer, Mastiff, all these bands, at each stage, they are all criminally underrated and should be playing to bigger crowds. And I'm a bit sad that they're not, but that's your answer. And I'll check out The Living End to see if Rob is right or wrong.
Lovely. Ithaca is a great shout. And thank you for reminding me that I forgot to mention Arcane Roots, who are also criminally underrated. Next question.
Next question is Christopher James. Do you think there's a gap in the festival market in the UK from a genre perspective? I'm thinking of power metal, maybe. Why do you think that gap exists? Well, you answered your own question. James, why isn't there a dedicated power metal festival in the UK?
I put this question in for you, mate. I thought you were the best place to answer it.
Now, to be fair, not to power metal, but to promoters who have tried that, there was one called the 13th Room. There was one called way back in 2004, 2005, a Room 13. It was a power metal one. There was one that started that was that collapsed almost instantly, like UK Metal Fest or something. And then the big one that did succeed but had to go in its own direction was Bloodstock. Bloodstock started, your Gamma Rays and Saxon and all those bands were in the original Bloodstocks, and they have gone back to your biggest power metal bands. You can get your Sabatons. They had that band and Avantasia, something like that. Some guy for some other band was doing it. I'm sure they paid fucking big bucks for it because it's kind of band that headlines these festivals in Germany. I was there out of pure curiosity. There was like 15 people watching at the main stage. It was fucking empty. It was absolutely empty. I'm obviously joking. It was more than 15, but in comparison to an opening band, just a Divine Chaos or a fucking Witch Sorrow and at 10:30 in the morning, they had more than this band that was some power metal supergroup. There isn't the appetite for it. I mean, I know I joke. It's not my favourite type of music. I laugh at it because I'm trying to be funny. That's it. I don't have any, there's no real like spite towards it. I mean, I dislike drum and bass more or garage music more than I dislike power metal. And I could watch the odd bit of Sabaton or Conquest of Steel and quite enjoy it. I do it because I'm just having a laugh at its expense. But there's not you're going to say something there?
No, you go.
There's not the stomach for it in the UK, and I think Bloodstock's proven it. They've booked all the biggest ones you can get, and then when you have your huge like the ones that come across for German, Blind Guardian or Manowar is probably the best, that are just headlining and playing to fucking 60,000-70,000 people. They come to the UK and it shits the bed. I mean, Blind Guardian were going to do that fucking whatever the one was called in the northeast in Durham, and there was no sales for it. And then poor Wayne at Manifest tried to book a few of these bands, no sales for it. Manowar come across, they're so shit that when they come across, it's like they can only play the academies. It's all they can really sell. But then they make their tickets £100 because of the money they're demanding, because they will refuse to accept that they are not Iron Maiden or AC/DC or Metallica. In that fucking headcase's mind, they are as big a band, and they just refuse to accept smaller fees. So then the fans get absolutely done over it. So, there is a gap in the fact there is not a dedicated power metal festival in the UK, but that's because there's not a demand for a power metal festival in the UK. And Bloodstock have proven that time and time and time again.
I mean, for someone who supposedly doesn't like power metal, you do a fucking excellent job of reeling off about 1 million power metal bands. It's an incredible depth of knowledge. Fucking fair play. There'll be a bunch of people listening to this going, "What is power metal?" And look, I genuinely don't listen to any power metal. The closest I get to power metal would be Iron Maiden. You should go and Google it because it is fucking hilarious. Go and listen to Sabaton or Manowar, and
Freedom
it is
Call.
the most over the top music you've ever heard in your life. Ridiculous.
And it's supposed to be fun. There's a difference as well now. I put on a show by the band Eternal Champion, which some people call power metal, some people call trad metal. More like, I mean, is Iron Maiden power metal or is it just traditional heavy metal? There's a sort of bloodline that what's post metal and what's post rock. A power metal fan listening probably it's the same shite. I mean, so when I listen to what's trad and what's power metal, where the line gets to the point, I don't mind when they're doing it and it's a bit of fun and the swords in the air and they're dressed up like characters for Dungeons and Dragons, and it's a bit of fun. And I feel something or Sabaton's war thing, they do it with a smile and they do it with a bit of gimmick, and I can do that. I can be like, through the gates of hell. I can do that with Sabaton and I feel drunk and enjoy it. It's when you get the Manowars that like they're deadly fucking serious and the leather and baby oil, they are deadly serious. Like I mean, like a 14-year-old girl could go up there and slap the 40s about that stage, and he's acting like he's going to take on the fucking world with your swords. And I'm just not having it. It doesn't help that Manowar do sound like they're a bunch of pricks as well, and cause all sorts of promoters' lives absolute misery. So that doesn't help for my disdain for that band. And I did catch them once live, and it was as awful as you would imagine. So aye, that's why I know so much about power metal.
Mate, the brilliant thing about one of my favorite things about this podcast is sometimes I see a question and I'm like, I don't know what Gav's going to say, but I've got a feeling that it's going to be good on this. So let's get the power metal question in there. The sort of second part of his question was about, is there in general a gap in the festival market? And I don't know, we might have talked about this before, but I think across the sort of main 10 or so rock and metal festivals, pretty much everything from pop punk all the way through to black metal is pretty well covered in the UK. And I would say that if you wanted to do something different, the thing to do would be to take a specific type of music and put it somewhere more interesting, like a cruise ship or a Butlins holiday camp. They're the only gaps I can see. Like take Arctangent, stick it on a cruise ship, great. Take Damnation, put it in Butlins, or whatever. But other than that, I think everything's covered. Some of these at the more Damnation-y end of the spectrum, there's a lot of niche, very niche festivals, aren't there? And I still think it's early days on working out how many of those will survive the long run. Because just sticking, I mean, I book 2 festivals that are niche, right? But not as niche as going, we only do black metal. I mean, fuck me. You are like, you're only doing black metal. That is really tight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll expand out of that in much the way that the Outbreak ultimately expanded from hardcore and then just made their definition of hardcore whatever the fuck they wanted, which is maybe the best definition of what hardcore is. So they just went, right, okay, well, we can't just always have knuckle dust every other year, and you're not going to get bands that can headline because you just don't have an Every Time I Die and an Octopus available every single year. And Turnstile would have been too big until he fucking put them in a field in London. So then they're a bit like, okay, well, we're just booking Soccer Mummy and we're going to book The World's a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die, which is, in my interpretation, the most, couldn't be further away from someone else's interpretation of hardcore if it tried. And then I even think your Cosmic Voids and your Fortress that are very tuned into black metal. I think ultimately if they go longer term, you'll start to see some black metal adjacent bands going on it because you swallow up that genre very quickly with it, and then when you run out the bands you can actually either afford or you don't want to repeat your lineup. You can get. I mean, Damnation books everything from post rock to grindcore, and we can find it sometimes difficult to make sure that we're getting all the bands we want. So fuck try to do that just for hardcore or death metal. I mean, there's one thing that's never really survived, and I was the one that tried it alongside UK Death Fest, death metal, a singular death metal all day. I mean, you get grindcore events, you get sort of brutal death metal sort of old days in pubs and clubs, but no one's managed to make here's a ball like straightforward death metal all day or death metal weekender that we can get enough death metal fans in the UK to come and support as much as people. This would be the time to try it because death metal's never been more popular. So if somebody's out there looking for a gap in the market, they think, okay, I could do that, then try that. But believe me, death metal bands like a lot of money too. So that and thrash metal bands like a lot of money. So best of luck.
I just think extreme metal. I like quite a bit of what you would call extreme metal, and I think for me, it's much. But I'd rather watch a death metal band followed by a black metal band, but not a power metal. I don't know, no interest in power metal, but go through the various different extreme genres.
I mean, how do you feel? Because
than just death metal all day. Fucking hell.
I mean, you are quite dismissive about power metal for a fan, such a massive fan of Iron Maiden. I mean, where do you sit with like Judas Priest, another one where they wouldn't call it power metal, more traditional metal? Because Iron Maiden isn't a million miles from Blind Guardian in the same way that Amon Ra is a million miles from Blind Guardian.
I mean, I've never massively got into Priest. I kind of would like to go in a bit more. I like heavy metal, right? So I like the stupid ridiculousness of Iron Maiden. I love the feeling it gives me when I watch it live. I love some of the albums. I used to listen to Dragon Force a little bit, which is power metal, I think.
Yeah.
But really, other than that, I've got no interest. I mean, Earton, who we've talked about a few times on this podcast, and I don't massively like their new album, but the one before it, it's definitely got it's extreme metal crossed with power metal, I think. Because sometimes the pomp and stupidness of traditional heavy metal I fucking love, but it gets a bit silly. And as you say, when they're walking around waving swords around, it's just fucking ridiculous. Axes. No.
Yeah. Okay. On you go then.
Next question. So Matt Lawson Hall says, this I thought this question rolled quite well out of the power metal. Someone in Cheddar has handed you an unlimited budget to create the ultimate cheesy Cheddar metal fest. The idea, to embrace the cheesiest, most over-the-top elements of metal, the bands and songs everyone claims to hate but secretly adores. I think that's the key point here. The bands and songs everyone claims to hate but secretly adores. Who's making the lineup for this gloriously guilty pleasure festival?
Now, this is one of these ones you've definitely given thought, and I'd be like, fucking hell, James. So tell us your gloriously cheesy fest. What avenue did you take?
Well, so this is how I got into rock music. So the only reason I like Nirvana or Rage Against the Machine is because of the bands that I was listening to in the very early 90s. It was really still the 80s. So I'm going to have Skid Row, Bon Jovi, Extreme, and the Little Angels. And look, I listen to those bands still nowadays. I know that might sound ridiculous, but it's true. I still listen to all of those bands. I'm going to have a 90s pop element to my festival. So I'm going to have S Club 7 and 5.
Really though?
No?
So what about like 5 will help you get down? Do you like? I mean, you're supposed to be guilty.
Mate,
you don't like 5.
I love 5 helping me get down. But they're not as good as S Club 7. Moving back into the rock world, I'm going to have Monster Magnet playing Power Trip in full. I'm going to have Dio playing Holy Diver in full. I'm going to have Limp Bizkit because, frankly, I consider them a guilty pleasure. I don't really see Limp Bizkit as serious music. Like Korn, I would see as a sort of artistic thing where I like the first 3 Korn albums. Limp Bizkit's just a bit of fun, so I'm having Limp Bizkit on there, playing the hits. And my headliner is going to be Iron Maiden. Because not that they're a guilty pleasure, but there's nothing more OTT than an Iron Maiden live show. And that is a fucking lovely, cheesy cheddar metal festival with no power metal.
That is. You and no women. So you guys going to enjoy going to enjoy the Sausage Festival as your ultimate cheesy cheddar lineup. I know that you could misread this question, but I took a different route now. Just bands that I do quite like, but definitely have a fun element to them. So you're in like taking up the whole town with multiple fields full of people with Maiden and Bon Jovi. And I'm going with Footprints in the Custard, Party Cannon, Raised by Owls, the Kazoo Funk Orchestra. Have you ever heard the Kazoo Funk Orchestra?
No.
You can't have more fun than a rock band playing kazoos. It's just fucking. I mean, I might come across as a glum guy, but I don't know if they're still an active thing, but I saw the Kazoo Funk Orchestra a couple of times, and like I Raised by Owls and Party Cannon, they play death metal, but it's always done with fun. There's Mr. Blobby, dildos, fucking inflatable sharks, all sorts getting chucked about. Footprint in the Custard, the same sort of vibe, and then to keep all the smiles and happiness going, Mayhem. Mayhem to headline, they fucking bust that balloon. So that would be my cheddar cheese festival. Whole lot of fun until Mayhem came and fucked up the sound.
Cracking.
Mike Shields, I just wondered what both your thoughts are on having elements that intrude on your festivals. I used to attend Supersonic in Birmingham a lot, and the lineups were augmented by augmented is a perfect word for this. Augmented by film screens, Q&As, art, sound installations, and more. What's your thoughts on that, James?
Well, I don't know if I think we've established my memory is pretty shit. So sometimes I might forget we've done a question.
Yeah.
We haven't done this question, but we have covered some of it in the past. So, I mean, my number one thing is that it's a music festival. In fact, I've just had a phone call now with Mitch about what we're going to do with podcasts at Trees and ATG next year. And I mean, I don't want to sound, there's no easy way to say this without sounding big-headed, but the podcasts that were the best attended was the Two Promoters, One Pod, right? So do people want to watch a podcast, or do they want to watch, what did we clash with? Static Dress and the Sleeping Souls. Like, what do you actually want to do? I've got friends who went to see Static Dress and not instead of me and you. And that's fair enough. It's a music festival. Go and watch fucking music. So I have a real bee in my bonnet about talks, particularly talks that are about music, clashing with music. It just seems mad. I mean, of all the times I've been to Roadburn, I have so many talks I've wanted to go to, like Johannes from Cult of Luna talking to one of the classic Cult of Luna albums, interview with, Jacob Bannon from Converge. I never actually make it. And the reason for that is because there are three things I like doing at festivals, and well, two things I like doing. One is watching music, and two is having a drink with my mates and talking crap to them at the festival in the bar. And
Yeah.
I'd much rather do both of those things than watch a podcast talk or a film screening or go to a art and sound installation. So that's my core base point. But over the years, I've softened to that, and I've been sort of forced to realize that at 2000 Trees is a very broad audience of different people, of families and young people and older people and some people that are just there because they love the vibe. And I've kind of softened on the fact that it's okay to give people something else to see, because only 300 of them will go out of the 20,000 people, and it's not impacting any of the stages. So,
Yeah.
Last year at Trees, we upped our comedy. The comedy's always been a big part of it. We did way more kids stuff. We're going to do even more kids stuff this year at Trees. For the first time ever, we did proper electronic DJs. I was always really against like that at 2000 Trees. So weirdly, I sort of start realizing that what I believed is like the festival should be is evolving. And as I like something I was steadfastly against one year, I'm like, actually, the fuck, yeah, we can have a podcast on at 3 p.m. in the day. That's fine. But why would anyone want to go and see a film during a festival is totally beyond me. I cannot understand it at all. What part of my festival vibe is a film going to help?
Yeah.
Any film.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally. I mean, the film's the most extreme. I mean, the talks that I get at the end of the day, you're there. It's not. It's not. I mean, I was part of one of the Roadburn talks about finances in the music industry and booking and promoting and stuff. And I mean, it was a full room, but at the same time, you're right, there's bands playing elsewhere. I suppose you've got a situation where Damnation or Trees, whatever, you get a couple of bands that you're not interested in, you're just going to sit at your tent anyway, so going and listening to a podcast is fair enough. Or at Art Tangent, which I suppose works really well, despite it being early, it's not clashing with the music, so then you've got the opportunity just, if you can get out your bed, you've got the biggest clash of it all, that hangover time in your tent against going out your tent to go and watch something. So aye, I mean, at Damnation, I feel the same way about the music being a priority, about being the focus, about the lineup being the focus, and that's why we've never really ventured out with that. If there was more space and we could put some sort of tent outside, it would really be for more chilled space. It would put some music in it, maybe put an acoustic. It'd be more music. I don't think it would be comedy or podcasts or art installations. I don't even know what art installation would, along the lines of what at Damnation.
Well, there's a gallery at Bloodstock, isn't there, that you can go?
But the dad is I forget his name. The dad is an artist. The dad done the Saxon album covers. So you're a bit like, I mean, fair enough. If you're the guy who set up the festival and you're an artist and you want to let people see your art, then great. Yeah. I mean, I've never been in it, but I've seen pictures. It looks great. And also, like, Bloodstock attracts a different fan base. They do like battle reenactments, and they do like they like Saxon, but they attract different audiences. They like Saxon, so they would be interested in going and seeing a Saxon artwork. So I mean, these things work, and I think at Bloodstock you're there the 4 days as well, different from Damnation, not your festivals. It's good to have an avenue, an escape to go and do something else, and I think that works. And it's a nice touch because I'm sure that it's not cheap to set up an art gallery in the middle of a field. For all the reasons, it's not cheap to set up anything in a field. So I fair play to them for doing that, but not for me. Is ultimately my answer. I just any spare pound I can get, I would rather give it to the opening band in the third stage than to create another place for talks.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about, I'm dropping this on you, but how do you feel about Arctangent podcasts? Because really, forgetting the fact that you're going to be on stage doing one, they're on at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. They finish at 11. Have you ever been to one?
Yeah. I mean, well, I've been to 3, haven't I? Because I've done Damnation Versus, I've done two promoters, one pod, and I was on 3's a Magic Number with Renfrey and Matt. So I've been on stage for 3 of them at Arctangent, and I've been, because I was on stage, I've been before they started. And the real depressing thing about it is they're just not well attended. They're not. I seen a couple that had 12 people, and a tent that takes 1,000, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, I'm sure, for the people on stage. It's heartbreaking for the people that went to support it, because they probably love that podcast, and it's not seeing the support that it could get. It's tough to get people out of bed at 9 a.m. in the morning when you've got it. Podcast is a tough avenue to start. I mean, listenership in podcasts isn't huge. I mean, every small band's get more listeners than even the big podcasts, out with your absolute heavy hitters for America. So it's a tough ask. It's so early. I think 1 hour later, I think you could probably double the crowds and all them. But then you start eating into what you're trying to achieve with your days of being in music. So I think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously, if it works. I mean, what other podcasts have you had that have been? I mean, this isn't about blowing our trumpet, but we've seen what happens when we done that one. Damnation Versus had half the crowd that Two Promoters One Pod did. Is there other podcasts you've booked that have had a more Damnation Versus to Two Promoters One Pod style crowd?
Well, at Trees, Sappenin does very well, and on Wednesdays, We Wear Black does well at Trees. ATG, I think it feels like it's more of a tough sell. I think I'm wondering whether we should do them next year, because I'm asking all my team to get up out of bed, the sound person, the stage manager, the crew, to get out of bed. And even Stuart Braithwaite from Mogwai, the headline band, there's not a massive crowd. And at some point you're like, if the audience don't want it, then what the fuck are me and Mitch doing, spending a couple of months trying to book it all? And I mean, clearly me and you want to do it next year, and we had a great time doing it at both festivals last year, and we will definitely do it again. But I'm pretty tempted to shoehorn us in the middle of the day somewhere at ATG and just not do the morning podcasts. But
I mean, we don't need to. I mean, it's not a case of we need to go everywhere we go to run your festivals. We need to do the podcast. Well, I mean, we are going out live and tour. We will do. I mean, I assume we will get booked elsewhere by other places. I mean, ultimately it's a tickets game, isn't it? If you're a bit like shit, that podcast does 300 tickets, someone's going to book you because they're a bit like, we're going to add some value to you. The problem with podcasts so far is no one's really proven the added value, and the ones that are the ones that are already in fucking arenas or huge big academies that probably want, I don't know, 30, 40 grand to show up. So they're no viable for festivals either. So I'm up for, I mean, don't, by all means, yourself and Mitch, don't put yourselves out just because you know you can get me for free. I mean, just like because the cheapest podcast to book.
Well, and we return to our regular segment, which is, are we doing Damnation this year, Gav?
So, like, Damnation itself is going to be tough, right, James? Because you want to do a podcast at 9 a.m. No, you don't, right? I don't want to open the doors at 9 a.m. either, right? Other than that, the setups on the stage are done. Do you want to go up into the Star Wars bar and do a podcast midday?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose see, every time at the start of yours, there's not as of an issue with your mic, but every time you say the first word, it's like silent before your mic kicks in, it notices it. So you've replied a few times over the course of this last hour where the first word doesn't kick in until you don't hear any audio for you until it comes. Anyway, that aside, just so you've got that in your mind, you would be up for...
What can I do with that information?
But see, like you started there, the first half of your word never came through. So I'm just because you were like, you answered that question, and I'm a bit like, no, I'm going to act like I heard an answer. And everyone listening to Spotify's like, James just went fucking completely silent.
For fuck's sake! So no one word answers then.
No one word. Yeah, say yes, that would be good, and then you'll get the whole fucking thing rather than just maybe yes isn't coming through. So maybe James. It feels like you're going to grind me down to the point that I'm doing it. So. And ultimately, people are now on your side because they're a bit like, well, Gav done it for James. And I'm a bit like, fuck, is that right? Is that the way it is taking sides? So, or maybe opening the night of salvation if we've got that before the bands come on, maybe doing something there. I don't know. I haven't given it a whole lot of thought, but it doesn't sound like you're going to let it drop. So,
and I know you like to talk about these things in front of the world rather than...
Yes, yeah, it always helps in most of the organisation. That thing's done in front of everyone. So, let's get focused, James. Focus on the tour ahead, okay? Let's sell that out, and then from there we will take the next step, okay?
Okay, good. We've got 2 questions left. I think we've got time. Let's go.
Okay. Our good friend Andrew Goodbury, a name that I see often. Gav, how many band tees do you think you own? Which one is your favourite? Or for James, which Bosk one is your favourite? And why? And finally, do you store them all? I am filling all available spaces in my house and need help and guidance. How many band t-shirts you got, James?
Well, I'm a massive collector of. My wife calls me a hoarder, but of like CDs and vinyl. But I do not collect band t-shirts. This is not something.
Can I interrupt you quickly? What hoodie are you wearing right now?
Mate, Arctangent hoodie. I never wear my own merch.
Finally, I've thought that I can only see the top of that. Looks like a Jim Bob design. Is he wearing his own merch? Finally,
do you know why? It's because I go all middle class on a Wednesday and play tennis. So I'm playing tennis later. So I'm in my sports gear. I'm not going to show you my legs, but yeah. So I'm in my hoodie. I usually don't wear hoodies, but yeah, Arctangent merch.
Good. You know what? Don't let people bully you, James. If you want to wear your own festival merch, wear your own festival merch, right?
I thought you were going to say don't be bullied about being middle class by a gal.
I don't know. You're definitely getting bullied for that and the tennis, but we've done that. But sorry, so I interrupted you. You don't collect hoodies. You don't collect t-shirts.
Don't collect t-shirts. So once a year, I clear out my t-shirts and either charity shop them or I might start whacking them on Vinted. But so I've got 15 to 20 t-shirts in my wardrobe. At any one time. The only thing I wear is band t-shirts. So a black band t-shirt is the only. If we go out for a posh meal, I sometimes do my denim shirt up so that you can't see my black. But I don't have a range of clothes.
You don't wear like dark grey, white, blue, green, nothing. No other colours.
Very, very rarely. No, not really. I've got a Chat Pal t-shirt which is sort of beige. But yeah, black t-shirts. So in terms of Bosk, I really like the events occur in real time black one, which has got the sort of yellow lines going off it, which is the new one. Really cool. But my favorite one is their most popular one, which is the sort of, I'm going to call it Goat Skull Jesus. Do you know the one I mean?
Yes.
It's fucking cool. I've owned it so many times. I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th version of that t-shirt. It's
Not
great.
only do I have that T-shirt, I have it from the Dragged into Sunlight and Bosk co-headline tour, in which the both bands are on the back and
Oh,
the
lovely.
dates are on the back. So that is an absolute peach. Bosk let us down a little. They went through a period of using Stanley Stella and Earth Positive, and their merch was fantastic. And they've went back to Gildan because Tom loves the pound, and aye, the new fits of the new stuff he gave us, even free, it's still like, it's a wee bit, it doesn't fit great. So, and also, the reason that civil service got in touch with us and sent me a T-shirt, which I said I'll wear the next episode, is because I was shouting about Earth Positive, and he said, "Mate, we need to fight this fight together. Earth Positive is the answer." So you'll see me in my T-shirt next week, my civil service Earth Positive T-shirt, which is an absolute peach. Sorry, that was a wee aside there. You know how I get about my merch.
Absolutely. How often do you wear a band t-shirt in a week, would you say? How many days of the week?
I pause seven, but I won't like. I wouldn't. I forgot. I like to dress. I like to dress. I mean, I will change out my band t-shirt into some nice designer wear if I'm going out for dinner, and I do like to dress up. And but most days I will pull out a band t-shirt from the drawer to stick in. And I go to the gym. I'll usually change a t-shirt for some sportswear, like a Nike or an Adidas t-shirt. But most days I will wear a band t-shirt. I do prefer a different colour from black. I think I've just had too many decades of just pitch black t-shirts, but that's the one that you get in most bands. To answer, and this is a great time to answer this question, Andrew, because I've just cleared out my loft. I have two full boxes, which must take about 70 t-shirts folded each, easily. So about 140 band t-shirts up the loft, and maybe another 60 to 70 in my cupboard, just t-shirts.
Okay.
And that's not way back, all my older ones I wish I kept, I've got rid of down the years. So that's just a collection. I love all the Damnation stuff. So if you generally get two of everything of the designs for Damnation, I get sent a lot of t-shirts, thankfully, and I appreciate that. I pick up a lot of t-shirts at gigs, even if I don't. Like if I've got a ticket, I've been on the guest list and I don't have a vinyl, I'll maybe just pick up a t-shirt because I'm to support the band, even if I don't particularly like it. Or in the worst case, it's a Gildan, and I know I won't wear it. So I'm a bit like, I've got fucking tons, and I only realised when I went up and done off how many great t-shirts I've got up there that I've packed away because I couldn't fit them in a drawer that I really love. So I threw a few downstairs to wear over the next few pods because it was always my aim to wear a different band t-shirt every single episode, and then I kind of get caught up with the rest of it, and I've noticed I've wore a couple twice, which has annoyed me.
You need to get your one of your teenagers, do them a deal, like a 70-30 split, give them those two boxes and get them on Vinted. Get them
Well,
sold, mate. There's some, you've probably got some very limited edition merch on there that people would pay for.
Well, even more than that. So just before the pandemic started, right? So I was a newspaper editor just before the pandemic started, and I just needed new work attire. And I went and spent a small fortune for Ted Baker shirts, two pairs of shoes. I mean, the shoes, fucking, I don't know, like 120 quid a pair of shoes. They have still don't have the laces in them. They're still there sitting in my cupboard with the laces out. I have got like 8 shirts and a pair of trousers. The shirts are still in the packaging with the price tag on it. And they've just been sitting up the loft forever. The only reason I'm telling this story is because it happened yesterday or the day before. And I was like, fuck all this shit that I bought to go back to the office. And then COVID struck and I never seen the office ever again. So I just did all this shit that I never had been able to wear. So I said to my daughter the other day, I says, look, what's the script to this Vinted? Because she's always telling, I sold this old shirt and I've done this. She says, what's the script to the Vinted? Oh, that's really good. People, you trust people, no time wasting. They pay for it. Like I've got these shirts that I don't know, range for like 60 to £100 a shirt. And they've got the price tags, they're still in the polythene. What do you get for that? She's always, you can get up to like 70 or 80% of what the price is if it's brand new. I'm like,
There you
fuck,
go.
we're sitting in a fucking Goldman here, never mind old dragged into sunlight t-shirts. It's like, let's get these shifted. So that's my next protocol
Lovely.
to either get a Vinted account started or get my daughter shifting the old Ted Baker stuff that I was supposed to wear in the career that died to do this with you.
Amazing. I mean, this podcast has gone to some niche locations over the year. But what's your favorite Bosk t-shirt? I feel like I didn't realize we were going to be able to talk about shit like that. This is great. Okay.
I think there's a freedom to. I don't know, every time we come off a podcast and go, oh man, that was fucking gibberish. Where the fuck did we go? And then people go, that's my favourite one. You should just talk more like that. Rather like, okay, you want us to talk about Lacey's known Ted Baker shoes for 3 years ago? We will take you there, pal. Right,
Okay.
final question, James.
It's from Simon Green, and he says, James resolved his exclusivity issue fairly easily with Carnival. How did Gav resolve his bleeding through issue when they did not play the album as promised?
So this was addressed in a previous one, and it was answered on the forum as well. It was like, oh well, what can you do? The reason for that answer being oh well was because they explained what happened afterwards, albeit the communication beforehand was terrible, and it led to some issues because if we knew beforehand, we would have just put a post saying their bassist couldn't make it, they've got an infill bassist, the guy only knows 6 or 7 of the tracks. That's as good as it's going to get. Everyone would expect it, but no one told us or the fan base. So you're expecting a full album in full, and they do, I don't know, half or 3/4 of it, and then you're a bit like, well, we feel a wee bit shock change there, which you've got every right to feel, and us as the promoters. But ultimately, that was the reason. They never screwed us over by just showing up and doing what they wanted. They were put in a bit of a position, and even if it wasn't communicated well, they did the best they could with it. And my experience of working with Bleeding Through was they were a complete pleasure. Absolute heroes from the minute we booked them to when they showed up. Completely appreciative, loved it, loved the crowd, loved being part of it. Afterwards, said how great it was. Really enjoyed working with them. So I don't think there was any malice in it or any like, oh, let's see if we can pull a fast one and we'll just throw in some new tunes. And I feel that once the fans who did find out it was because it was a different basis, they accepted it. So that was the reason for oh well, because it was very much there should be a compensation or you should get your money back or all this kind of jazz. And that's different from a band saying they're going to come and play an album and then just showing up and doing whatever the hell they wanted. Yeah. I've said previously, once a band go on stage, Danny Filth goes on stage and they said they're going to do an old school ritual set and they come out and do the hit for their latest album. I'm not going to go in and fly kick them off the stage. They're going to play the set and then we're going to deal with it afterwards. But I will be going to the agent and saying, we were promised something, we paid a premium for it, we didn't get that, I want the premium back. And if we don't get the premium back, there's going to be an issue between us and your agency and definitely that band going forward. That's never happened before. So that's where we're at. It's not like when I said, oh, well, in that particular circumstance, does not apply to being screwed over if we ever were screwed over, which to my, I don't believe we have been. I would definitely chase that up afterwards and say that is not what was agreed because you're only doing these things in trust. I mean, it's not like you don't get, we've described tons of times, you don't get any influence on a set list unless you pay that premium to get that album. At that point, you can expect to get that album. And Bleeding Through was just one of those ones that they did the best they could in the circumstances.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Anything to add to that? How would you feel if you got We Lost the Sea showed up and then they don't play the parts of songs like they promised? You're going to have an issue with that, aren't you?
You are, but I don't. I honestly, I feel like I'm a bit like with agents. They always have the upper hand with things like that. Like, how do you, where do you go once that happens? Like, really, how do you even have that conversation? You never get money. I mean, other than what we talked about on Carnival, you never really get money back or money off. I've never had money back for anything. You know, they turned up late. Who's it? I probably shouldn't name the band. There's a band really late at 2000 Trees last year. They played for about 20 minutes. And they're like, oh, woe is me, we only got 20 minutes. And I'm like, well, I paid you fucking 15 grand for 20 minutes. It's like,
yeah,
it's annoying. So, but do you get anything back? No, of course you don't. We've talked about this. The contracts that you do or do not sign have nothing in there to protect the promoter. They're all about protecting the artist. So, yeah.
And now, okay, and on to my favourite bit of the podcast. James, what festivals are getting an app for next year or this year?
Well, as of this week, we are working on apps for 2000 Trees and Arctangent festivals. Yes.
my power's no limits. Even Rob Scarlett can be ground down to accepting that this is the way forward. And who are you using for that, James?
Meliora, the lovely Darren from Meliora.
There you go. There you go. What a win that is for both of us, Darren. We worked on them. Because what was the yous were still? I mean, you're an old fashioned mind and an old fashioned like, and I see that in a competition. You are very DIY. You do like to do things. And this is taking one part of your festival and putting it into the hands of someone else. So what was the initial feeling? Was it just about the selling stage times and having it a bit more, I don't know, traditional?
Yeah, and like as a, we just talked about on t-shirts, as a collector of vinyl and other music memorabilia, I've got a fucking couple of boxes full of Clash finders from different festivals I've been to over the years and wristbands and stuff. And, one day, hopefully they won't just be sat in a box, but I like having shit, holding it. And I think the plan is that you will still be able to have something to hold, hang it around your neck at 2000 Trees and Arctangent, but there'll also be an app alongside it. We we were very much persuaded by the ability to communicate with your audience through the app is quite a persuasive element of it. I think that
Yeah,
when you did the Damnation lineup announcement, I got a notification on my phone. So you know that sort of thing is is a really powerful tool for
yeah,
event organisers. I'm being very honest here, um, and frankly, I'm 40. What am I? 46, and some of our audience are 26, and they don't want to fucking hold a piece of paper, do they? They want to have an app, or some of them are 16. They want an app, so they're
yeah,
getting an app.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and we're super super stoked for it. So yeah,
I think it's a great decision. Honestly, I've obviously had that trial run with Damnation. I feel like it went well. I would say any fan listening to this for 2000 Trees and Dark Tangent, the most important decision you do when you download this, allow notifications. And that goes against your every instinct because you've just been battered for so many years with companies like Domino's or Uber who want to batter you every 15 seconds, whatever the latest thing is, that you switch notifications off almost by instinct. Damnation hasn't abused that power. I think we've put 2 or 3 notifications in total since we've had it. I'm sure Art Tangent and 2000 Trees won't. Without the notification power, it's a bit redundant. It just becomes somewhere you can find stage times. You want to find out when Alexis and Fire are going to be booked or announced. That's the place you're going to get it first. Yes, I'm delighted you're doing it. I'm looking forward to it. I was the weird guy at both Fury festivals last year that I had an app on my phone for both Trees and at Tangent, the only person there because I had the sort of the prototype that was Darren was trying to show how it would work. So once you do this, I don't think you go back from it. And I do believe because we had people wanted hard stage times. Now you can get your app for free, your stage times for free. We still had people who wanted to buy their stage times the same way that people buy vinyl when they're for free in a Spotify. There are people out there like you and I who just like the memento and the keepsake, or just having something they can turn to without having to pull their phone out of their pocket. So I feel that you'll get the benefit for both sides. And well done, Darren. That's a big win for you, pal. Art Tangent and Trees. And like Damnation was a small one for him. He's got the ones he was after. He can stop pretending he likes Damnation as well. If you are a festival organizer, UK, Europe, it doesn't matter where in the world, Meliora.events, go and get yourself an app. And to round us off, James, on the record, with added pressure now that you're doing the playlist and people listening.
lovely. Well, I'm going to go for Three Syllables by Vinart. So these songs are now on Spotify, as I mentioned the other day. So this album is in my top 20 albums of last year. Um, and the reason I hadn't put it on the record previously is because it wasn't on Spotify. So I mentioned Ocean Size earlier on in this podcast. Mike Vinart was the lead singer, guitarist in Ocean Size, the main songwriter. Um, I think this is his third album. And like everything he's done in Ocean Size and solo, it's fucking great. It's full of weird but also catchy songs with his very sort of very recognizable voice of his and the weird, strange way he writes, which makes it very uniquely Mike Vinart. I think whatever he puts his hand to, you can tell it's him. I love this album. This is one of the best songs on it. So yeah, people should if you don't know Vinart, fucking check him out. But I'm sure a lot of people know him already on this podcast. But he should appeal to fans of all 3 festivals. It's not It's not a sort of specific to one festival type of thing.
Yeah, nothing but good things to say about Mike Van Aert, both as a musician and everything he's involved in, from Oceansides through Biffy Clyro to his solo stuff to him as a person. My aunt is going through some shit health-wise at the minute, has been for a while, and is the biggest Van Aert and Biffy Clyro fan in the world. And he took the time out of his day while playing in Glasgow to record that and voice note or a video message for my aunt with Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro to wish her all the best and hope that she gets well soon. So meant the world to her. Fuck's sake, man, she never shuts up about that video. I think she watches it 60 times a day.
I saw the video actually when I was trawling through our inbox. Really nice of them to do that. Really nice.
It was such a nice touch. It meant the absolute world to her and lifted her spirits when fuck man she really needed them lifted. So nothing but good things to say about Mike. He was supposed to be a guest at Damnation this year. I think he likes his music pretty heavy as well. But something else came up, childcare or whatever, and they couldn't make it at the last minute. So always welcome at Damnation, Mike, and I look forward to seeing you in whatever your next project or next time you're on stage. To keep my success rate 100 in 2025, I am going to go with Arab Strap, one of my albums of the year in 2024, a band I have fallen head over heels for. I waxed lyrical about them in the album of the year chat. Sort of spoken word Scottish poetry almost against every type of backdrop of music you could get, from folk music to EDM to indie rock to rock. Well worth checking out. The opening track on their latest album, Albatross, is an absolute crack. So many good tracks, but I wanted this one because it's all about the lyrical content, which makes Arab Strap so great. If they were just singing "Blah Blah Black Sheep" over the top of it, it would be mince. But the guy's a fucking genius lyricist, and this track is about how the internet has crippled us and crippled the way we think, and how we just put ourselves into camps, right wing, left wing, and then just fucking echo chambers for not doing our own thoughts and just what we want to do with our lives. There's a sort of chorus in it about being the sea breeze and walking on the hills and sucking a stone and getting the line of the breeze against your balls and the things that you want to enjoy in life. Yet here we are, fucking absolutely locked into the algorithm and shouting insults at each other, and it closes it with these opinions are not your own, these opinions are not your own, which I think sums it up with the left or right, where we're just sitting here and fucking shout nonsense at each other and refuse to listen. So great track by a great band. I am all about Arab Strap. So if you haven't checked them out yet for the album of the year pod, then go and do that now. James will have them added.
Yes, I will, mate. I will. Amazing. Shall we? I just wanted to give a quick shout out to James Scott Howes, who sent me a book. He got in contact, and it is called Poems of Love, Despair, and New Metal. So you may not be surprised to hear I'm not a big reader of poetry, so this has been quite a new thing for me. But I've been dipping in and out of his poetry book, which, as he says, is about love, despair, and new metal, and it's very. I don't feel able to review a poetry book, but I'm enjoying it. It's good. So people should check it out. Unstable Boy, it's called.
He is from the Damnation Forum, and he is the man responsible for the recommendations of Crippling Alcoholism, Glassing, Frail Body, and a bunch of other bands of that ilk. He likes his he likes his emo violence, as he calls it. He likes that kind of music, and he was, I think, the first, second, or third person I saw mention Crippling Alcoholism, and he's one of those guys now. He's recommended a band called Blind Girls that I haven't heard yet, and I'm already excited about going and listening to it because it does have a good hit rate for the type of music that I am enjoying this year or last year. So yes, James, thoroughly enjoyed that, mate. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I hope my laptop seemed to work, so I hope that the mic, the audio and visuals all came through first. And even though there was a slight delay with your first word, I didn't mean to trip you up in the middle of the podcast. Well, you did get on top of it, mate. You did get on top of it.
Good. Well, it was a pleasure, mate. I will see you next week.
Until next week.